Close your eyes and picture an apple. What color is it? Now slice it in half. Can you see the pale flesh, the seeds, a drop of juice catching the light? And what is it resting on? A table, a hand, or nothing at all? Now here is the strange part. Think about this for a second. You just saw that apple, maybe blurry, maybe sharp, but it was there, somewhere behind your eyes. And the person sitting right next to you, doing the exact same thing, might have seen nothing. Only darkness, no apple at all, not a faint one, not a blurry one, nothing. So let me ask you something that sounds simple, and turns out to be almost impossible to answer. What does it even mean to imagine? Because you and that person just used the very same word, imagine, and meant two things so different they barely belong in the same language. Today, we're going to run a few quiet experiments on your own mind. Little tests right here, as you watch. And by the end, you might realize something unsettling. That you've been wrong about the people around you your entire life. The people you know best. And you never had the slightest reason to suspect it. Let's stay with that apple for a moment, because it goes deeper than you'd think. When most people imagine an apple, they describe actually seeing it. A picture forms. Faint for some, almost photographic for others. But a real image, as if there's a small screen behind the eyes, and you can summon almost anything onto it. A face, a beach, your own front door. So try that now. Picture the face of someone you love, someone you've seen 10,000 times. Can you see them? Their eyes, the exact shape of their smile? Or do you just know what they look like without anything actually appearing? Because for some people, that screen is switched off, completely. Ask them to picture an apple, or their own mother's face, and they understand the request perfectly. They know every fact about that face. They'd recognize it instantly in a crowd. But they cannot bring up a single image of it. The screen stays black. This is called aphantasia, a mind with no mind's eye. And here's the part that stops me cold. Imagine loving someone your whole life and never once being able to picture their face when they're not in the room. You remember that they look a certain way. You just can't see it. When they're gone, truly gone, you can't replay their face at all. And now, think about how someone like this could live for 40, 50 years without ever knowing they're different. They hear everyone around them say, "Picture this. Imagine that. I can still see it like it was yesterday." And they assume it's all just a manner of speaking, a figure of speech. They have no reason on earth to suspect that the rest of us are quietly watching little movies behind our eyes. How would they ever find out? You can't see into someone else's imagination. You can only trade the same words and assume they mean the same thing. Now let's go to the complete opposite end. Imagine a mind's eye so vivid, so detailed, so stable, that it's almost impossible to tell apart from reality. That was Nikola Tesla. Tesla claimed he could build a machine entirely inside his head. And he didn't mean a rough sketch. He meant a complete working machine. Every gear, every bolt, in full 3 dimensions. He said he could start it running in his imagination, walk away, and let it turn for weeks. Then he'd come back to it in his mind, take it apart piece by piece, and look at which parts had worn down, which bearings had ground thin, which joints had fatigued, all without ever building a single physical thing. Think about what that actually requires. Not just to picture a machine, but to hold it so precisely, so consistently, that imaginary metal could wear out the way real metal does. To run a physics simulation, in your head, for weeks, and trust the results enough to build the real thing only once, at the very end. His inner screen was so powerful, he treated it like a workshop. Iddo. So now, hold these two minds side by side. One person cannot summon a single image if their life depended on it. cannot picture their own child's face. Another runs entire factories behind his eyes for weeks and reads the wear on metal that doesn't exist. And here's the thing that should unsettle you. Both of them, asked what they did, would say the exact same sentence. I imagined it. Same words, two universes apart. But the picture in your head, that's still just the surface, because there's something even closer to who you are, something that might be running right now, this very second, as you take in these words. So for the next one, don't look. Listen. Read this next sentence and pay very close attention to what happens inside you. I wonder what I'll eat tonight. Did you hear that? For most people, a voice just spoke those words. Your own voice inside your head, silent but unmistakable. And once you notice it, you realize it almost never stops. It narrates your day. It reads along with you. In fact, it might be reading these very words to you right now. It rehearses arguments you'll never have. It replays things you wish you'd said. We call it the inner voice, and for the people who have it, it's the constant background hum of being alive. So here's a test. When you read a book, do you hear the words spoken in your head one by one? Most people do. The voice reads to them. Now imagine, instead of all that, silence. Total, permanent silence. Because some people have no inner voice at all. None. No narrator. No words running through the mind. When they think, there are no sentences. Their thoughts arrive already finished, as ideas, as intentions, as pure understanding, without ever being spoken inside. When they make a decision, there was no little debate in words, no voice weighing this against that. The decision is simply there, complete, wordless. And think about what that changes. So much of what we assume about the mind is built on that inner voice. We assume everyone talks themselves through a problem. We assume everyone lies awake with their thoughts narrating their worries. We assume reading means hearing. But for the person who thinks in silence, none of that is true. And they spent their life assuming talking to yourself was just an expression, a metaphor, something nobody actually does out loud on the inside. And here's the perfect mirror of it. The person with the constant inner voice can't even imagine thinking without words. To them, silent thought sounds like no thought at all, like a blank. And the person who thinks in silence can't imagine why anyone would need a voice narrating everything. It sounds exhausting, like a radio that never turns off. Each one is sure their way is simply how minds work. So picture this. Two people, married for 40 years. One has a voice in their head that never shuts up, narrating, worrying, rehearsing every waking minute. The other thinks in pure, wordless silence. They've shared a home, a bed, a life, 10,000 conversations. And not once in all those decades have the two of them experienced a single thought the same way. They never knew. Why would they? You can't hear inside another person's head. You just assume the silence, or the noise, is the same on both sides. So you might not picture the way I do. You might not even think with the same material. But surely, we at least see the same world, the same colors. That's just physics, light hitting the eye. Right? Let's test that too. And this is where it gets genuinely uncomfortable. Find something red near you right now. Anything. A boring, ordinary red. Here's a question that sounds childish and has no answer anyone has ever solved. How do you know that the red you're seeing right now is the same red I'm seeing? Really think it through, because it's slipperier than it sounds. We both call it red. We both learned the word as children, pointing at the same things. Apples, stop signs, a drop of blood. So we will always agree on the name. Forever. Show us both a fire truck. We both say red with total confidence. But the name is not the experience. The actual feeling of red, the raw redness of it, the way it shows up inside your mind, that is sealed inside your skull where no one else can ever go. I can't climb behind your eyes and look out. I can't hold your red up next to mine and check that they match. For all either of us could ever prove, the color you experience when you see red might be what I would experience as blue. And we would never, ever catch it, because we'd both still point at the apple and say the same word. Philosophers have a name for these private inner experiences. They call them qualia, the redness of red, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the taste of coffee as you taste it. And the haunting thing about qualia is that they can never be shared, not measured, not transmitted, not compared between two people. Your inner world is, in the most literal sense, yours alone and sealed. And this isn't just a clever thought experiment. We know, for a hard fact, that people don't all see color the same way. Some people are missing a type of receptor in their eyes. And entire shades that are obvious and vivid to you simply do not exist in their world. Here's the eerie part. Many of them go years, even decades, never knowing. Because how would they? Nobody can show them the color they're missing. They just learn to call the same things by the same names as everyone else, and the gap stays invisible. And push it further. Think of someone born completely blind. They learn the word red. They can use it correctly. They know blood is red, roses are red, stop means red. They can talk about red their whole life. But the experience of red? There's a word in their mind with nothing behind it. An empty box with the right label. And it makes you wonder, how full is your box really? How much of what you know is the experience? And how much is just the word? So you and a friend stand under the same sky, and you both say blue. One word, total agreement on the surface. And behind that single word might sit two completely different experiences, with the word itself stretched over the gap, hiding it, so neither of you ever finds out it's there. You can't even be certain you share the same red. So now, turn that loose on everything. How much of what you assume you share with the people you love is real? And how much is just a word thrown across a gap you were never able to see across? Let's look at memory. Because how you remember your own life might be nothing like how I remember mine. Think back to your last birthday. For most people, something replays. You don't just know it happened. You drop back into a piece of it. A face across the table, the light in the room, the feeling in the air, the sound of someone laughing. For a second or two, you're partly there again. You time-traveled, and you barely noticed you did it. Now try to imagine remembering your whole life, every fact intact, but without ever being able to do that. Without the replay. Because some people can't. They remember the facts of their lives perfectly. The dates, the places, who was there, what was said. Their factual memory can be razor sharp, but there's no scene, no replay, no stepping back inside the moment. It's like reading a detailed report of your own life, written by a stranger, in the third person. You know every event happened. You simply cannot relive a single second of any of it. This is real, and it has a name. Severely deficient autobiographical memory. And, you'll see the pattern by now, many of these people went their whole lives assuming everyone was exactly the same. That remembering just meant knowing the facts. That when other people talked about reliving a moment or being flooded with memories, they were just being poetic, exaggerating, using pretty language for the same plain knowing that they had. Now think about what that means for who you are. So much of your sense of self is built on reliving your past, replaying the moments that shaped you, feeling them again, stitching them into a story called me. Now imagine having all the facts of your life, but never being able to feel your way back into any of them. You'd still know exactly who you are on paper, but your past would be information, not experience, a biography, not a memory. Would you even be the same person? And here's the image that stays with me. Picture two people standing at the same graveside, mourning the same person they both loved. One is flooded. The exact sound of that person's laugh, a specific ordinary afternoon years ago, the warmth of their hand. It all comes rushing back, unbearably alive. Yet the other one knows every single fact about who they lost, every shared year, every detail, and cannot replay one single moment of them. Not the laugh, not the face in motion, nothing. Same person lost, same love. Two completely different inner worlds standing side by side in the same silence, and neither one can ever truly know what the other is experiencing. By now, you can probably feel the pattern underneath all of this. Seeing, hearing your own thoughts, perceiving color, remembering your own life. Every single one of these, things we just assume are the same for everyone, turns out to be wildly different from one head to the next. So let's ask the last and deepest version of the question. Try to catch yourself in the act of thinking, right now, this very second, and ask yourself something you've probably never asked. What is a thought actually made of for you? For some people, thoughts are words, that inner voice we talked about, narrating, reasoning in full sentences. For others, thoughts are pictures. They think in images, in scenes, the way Tesla ran his machines, turning ideas around in visual space. And for some, thought has no words and no pictures at all, just a kind of pure, silent knowing that arrives complete, fully formed, with nothing you could ever point to or describe. The people who think this way often struggle to even explain it, because there's nothing there to hold up and show you. So sit with the consequence of that. When you and I both say, "Let me think about it," we might be doing fundamentally different things inside. You, running a debate in words. Me, rotating images in space. Someone else, holding a wordless certainty that just settles, with no narration and no picture at all. Three completely different machines. And all three of us reach for the exact same word. Thinking. We assume it's one thing. It was never one thing. And that, all of it, comes together now into one quiet, staggering idea. We move through our entire lives carrying one hidden assumption we never stop to question. That behind every other face is a mind, basically like our own. That other people see what we see. Hear the inner voice we hear. Remember the way we remember. Think the way we think. And everything we've looked at today says, maybe not. Maybe not at all. Maybe not even close. The person you love most in this world might see vivid, living color where you see only darkness. Might think in perfect silence where your mind never stops talking. Might feel a color or relive a memory, or hold a thought in a form you will never, ever have access to. Because the one thing you can never do, no matter how much you love someone, no matter how many years you share, no matter how close you get, is climb inside their head and look out through their eyes, even once. We are each sealed inside our own experience, every one of us, alone in here. And all we can do is throw words across the gap between us. Read, remember, imagine, think, and trust, on faith, that the same thing lands on the other side. And the strangest part, usually we never find out that it didn't. We go a whole lifetime assuming we shared an inner world we never actually shared. But maybe, and I really believe this, maybe that's the most human thing there is. That even though we're each locked inside a separate, private universe, unable to truly share one single sensation with another living soul, We still reach across that gap every single day with nothing but clumsy words. And somehow, imperfectly, impossibly, it's enough. Enough to build a friendship, a family, a whole life beside someone whose inner world you can only ever guess at, and love anyway. So, do you think everyone is like you? After today, maybe the only honest answer is we can never fully know. And strangely, I don't find that lonely at all. I find it a reason to assume a little less, ask a little more, and stay curious about the entire hidden universe quietly running inside every single person you will ever meet. This is Entropy and Eternity, a channel about the biggest questions of the universe and the strange, silent universe each of us carries behind our own eyes. If this made you see yourself or the people around you even a little differently, consider subscribing. I go looking for one of these deep questions every week, and I'd genuinely like you here for the next one. And before you go, try one thing for me. Today, ask someone close to you. When you imagine an apple, do you actually see it? Just watch what happens. Their answer might surprise you. It might even surprise them. Then come back and tell me in the comments what they said. I read them. Until next time, keep looking up and keep wondering what's really going on behind every other pair of eyes.